Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Michael and this is Logic Everything. So today we are going to be talking about feminism. So my position on the issue of feminism is simple. I am a feminist and I believe that most people who would want to live in a democratic society should or are also feminists. But this would refer to a world whereby words actually mean what they are meant to mean, and that's not the world we live in. Nowadays, feminism actually refers or is taken as something very different from what it's supposed to be. The basic definition of feminism is actually someone who or they believe in equal rights between men and women. And I believe that men and women should have equal rights, as do most people I know. Now, modern day feminism is actually quite different from other versions of feminism. The first iterations of feminism, the first wave feminism, the second wave feminism is very different from what we have today. And people call what we have today, the third or the fourth wave of feminism. And all these iterations, the first, second and third wave, they differ in very core principles. An example is the issue of abortion. This was not actually one of the core principles of first and second wave feminism. In fact, as at the time it was implemented into the feminist agenda globally, or maybe let me say nationally in the US, it was not even favored by most women in America. And guess what? It was not even favored by most feminists at that point in time. The most progressive of the most progressive feminists did not agree with it. Another core issue whereby earlier iterations of feminism differ from modern day feminism is the issue of sexual positivity being taken as female empowerment. That was, never up until I think the 80s or the 70s. That was never one of the core principles of feminism. And even today, we have so many feminists who don't agree with us, who don't think having an OnlyFans page or being naked on Twitter is a form of female empowerment. And this causes a little bit of a divide between, conservative feminists and, regular feminists. Most African feminists are actually conservative because Africa is a very conservative, place. Nigeria is the most religious country in the world. I think the second most religious country in the world is Ghana. So you can understand why that would be an issue. I am very sure, or I'm 99% sure that Chimamanda doesn't think that if you strip naked or you have an OnlyFans page, it is you fighting back the patriarchy. What I'm going to be going into today is the reason why most people don't like calling themselves feminists. And that in itself is a very serious problem, not just with feminism, but with most social activism, most form of social justice activism that exists. Some people distance themselves with it because of one reason, and that reason is that a lot of times social activism gets politicized, which means that at a certain point in time, a lot of people don't actually engage in this form of activism because of the benefits to society or because of its core principles. They do that simply because of personal gain or financial gain or whatever gain that they can have. And a very common way of doing this is when feminists or other activists brand any issue that happens as a social activism. They brand personal issues as a feminist issue. They can have an issue with their ex or their partner and they would claim that the reason why that thing is happening to them is because they are being oppressed by men. A very good example is the issue that happened with Megan Rapinoe. If you don't know who Megan Rapinoe is, she is a feminist and she's an American citizen. She plays for the US women's national team. And if you are conversant with this issue, you would know that for a very long time, the women's national team has actually been claiming that they are underpaid. And the reason why they are being underpaid is because they are women. Now, this issue is very controversial, especially if you as a person understand the details of the issue. Let me just explain this briefly to you. The reason why the women's national team think or say that they are underpaid is simply because they think so. There is no evidence to point that they are actually being discriminated against because of their gender. And I would explain this thing to you, just calm down. Now, I think about 8 years ago, this would be about 2013 or 2014, I'm not really sure. But around that time, the women's national team, they were given an option, two different options. One of the options was them being paid on the basis of their performance. And now, in this particular issue, them being paid by their performance, it would be a good thing if they perform very well, they will get a lot of money. But the problem with that is that if they perform poorly, they would get, very little amount of money. And most people that want stability, most human beings would want to profit even if they underperform. So they chose that option as opposed to the second option. The second option was going to be them being paid a standard amount of money. That means even if they underperform, they would still be paid that amount of money. Now, someone who thinks that, okay, I'm going to perform exceedingly well and they are very assured of it, they would choose the first option of them being paid on the basis of their performance. Someone who feels that there might be something that can happen that can prevent them from performing doing well, they will choose the second option of them receiving a standard payment, no matter how well they perform or no matter how poorly they perform. The US women's team, they chose the second option of them being paid a standard regardless of their performances, regardless of how much money they bring in to the US revenue. And now the decision that they made has actually backfired on them, because from that point when they signed that contract, they have been winning tremendously. They won the World Cup, I think twice. I'm not really sure, but I think they've won it twice from that point up till now. But the problem with that is that despite them winning the World Cup, they will still collect a standard salary, even if they underperform. But they've not underperformed, they've overperformed. So because of how much they've won, they have received several other benefits, several other additions to their salary, but it is still not up to the amount that would actually come to them if they actually were collecting on the basis of their performances. And this is where the problem is. The problem is not them actually asking for a pay raise or actually disputing the case with the US, whatever department handles that. The problem is actually them presenting this thing as feminism. It is not feminism.